So my name is Nicky Grigg, and I grew up in Perth in Western Australia, and the undergraduate degree I did there was in environmental engineering, and that got me started in where I'm at now, because it was a wonderful training in all the different disciplines that are important to understand if we want to understand how our natural systems work.
Yes.
I would have first heard about climate change when I was a teenager, and I think it had a fundamental influence on my career choice. So my choice to do environmental engineering came from the fact that I was concerned about what I was learning about climate change, and at the time ozone layer depletion was also a concern. In my earlier years, climate change didn't feature very much at all in either what we were taught or the projects that I was working on, but there's certainly a growing emphasis now in that most of the projects that we're involved in have a climate change dimension, even if the central purpose is to, if it's to plan for stormwater harvesting ponds or something like that, it's always with a climate change perspective in mind now. So it's certainly changing the way that we're doing research in environmental systems. I'm involved in a project that's looking at the modelling requirements for climate change impacts on the freshwater resources and biodiversity sectors, and in particular for climate change adaptation. So what kind of modelling needs? We're recognising that the needs for modelling impacts are quite different to those of adaptation, and so there's a project looking at that. I'm also involved in a project looking at resilience and what insights from the resilience research community we can bring to questions of, in this particular case it's for Australia, looking out to 2050. So if we do want to look at the kinds of futures that are possible for Australia, what can a resilience perspective bring to that? And I'm involved in a team of people who are developing integrated models. So we're linking economic, climate, water, other aspects together into these integrated models. Research topics?
Yeah.
So the one that I find most interesting and most challenging is that, so if I think of the early part of my training, it was very much about the biophysical sciences and quantifying biophysical processes, whereas what we're looking at now is the need to link to these other social processes, and it brings in things like human values, subjectivity, and all these things that as scientists we're not trained to deal with. And so the fact that we're now having to operate in this space where all human values and subjective, multiple different perspectives on the same problem, we're having to work in an environment that does that. And I find that really challenging, but also really exciting. There's more of a blend, I think, between the quantitative biophysical sciences and the broader social endeavour, or broader human endeavour, I should say. Okay, so I'm at the CSIRO, and the CSIRO, as well as having divisions that look at particular, so we've got a division of ecosystem sciences, we've got a division of land and water, plant sciences, these sorts of things, but we've also got these things called national research flagships, and we've got a flagship for climate adaptation, and there's a flagship called Water for a Healthy Country. And so these research flagships are about addressing big picture nation scale questions, and so one of them is this climate change adaptation flagship. And again, it's recognising that the needs for adaptation, the research needs, the skills and things that need to be developed are very different to those of other aspects of, say, climate research. And so that's a very exciting area that is very much alive in our organisation. And many of the other research flagships and divisions are certainly, climate change adaptation is increasingly coming into these projects.